Welcome back to Accessible Gourmet. Today we're making beef Wellingtons. Let's start by making a mushroom duxelle. We're going to need 3 to 4 sprigs of fresh thyme, and we just want to strip the leaves off of the stems, put these in a small bowl, and set this aside. Mushroom duxelle is just kind of a fancy word for kind of a mushroom pate, for lack of a better term. So for this we're going to need a pound of mushrooms. I'm using baby bellas here because that's what I had on hand, but if you have white button mushrooms, those will work just fine. We want to chop these up as finely as possible. I know a pound seems like a lot, but this is going to definitely shrink once the water starts to evaporate out while we're cooking. I realized as I was chopping this that I was probably making more work for myself. To do this all by hand would take a little while, so I thought I'd work smarter, not harder, and I figured I could do this in a food processor. So I just sliced up all of my mushrooms, put them in the bowl of my food processor. And we want to pulse these mushrooms a couple of times just until we reach a fine mince stage. We don't want it to go too far. And over medium-low heat, we're going to melt a tablespoon of unsalted butter, add in our thyme leaves and our chopped up mushrooms. I try to keep this in a single layer and pressed it all down because we don't want to touch this for 5 minutes. We want to encourage as much of the liquid to come out as possible. So we just let this cook for 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, give it a stir. And we're going to cook this until most of the water is evaporated out. And once that's happened, salt and pepper it, and then put it in a small bowl and set this aside until we're ready to use it. Let's move on to our beef. I'm using petite filets here because that's what my grocery store had. And I'm just chopping off the ends to make our pieces a little bit more even. But those turned out to be dinner for my dogs for Christmas, because they are spoiled rotten. So we're going to season these on all sides with salt and freshly ground pepper. Once I season the 2 larger sides of the steak, I like to roll my pieces around on my board just so I get the edges, the tops and the bottoms. And then over medium-high heat in a cast iron, we're just going to brown these for 1 minute per side. We just want a slight Maillard effect on this just to seal in the juices. And don't forget to brown the edges and the tops and the bottoms as well. We want these completely browned all over. Now we can pull them off of the stove, and then we're going to brush each of our fillets with some Dijon mustard. It's about a tablespoon that I ended up using, and we want to get the entire surface area of the beef just covered in Dijon mustard. Next on to assembly, we have some plastic wrap. We are going to layer down 4 pieces of prosciutto. You want to overlap the edges a little bit, and I switched the wide part to thin part while I laid these out because we want this to stay together once we roll it. Then we're going to cover the prosciutto with a thin layer of our mushroom duxelle, just as evenly as possible. And we're going to take one of our beef fillets, place it at one end of our little layer system here, and this is why plastic wrap is really nice because it helps in rolling this. We're going to roll this up like a burrito, and you want it as tight as possible once you roll this. And once everything is nicely rolled, we're going to roll this in turn up in our plastic wrap, seal it very tightly, and put it in the freezer for 20 minutes and then set our oven to 400 degrees. I'm also making a little asparagus side dish with this. So I'm just taking a bunch of asparagus, and asparagus is nice because it will tell you where it wants to break. So if you just bend it, it'll pop off where the ends are that are too dry. And then I'm separating this into 5 stems per bundle. And this is a good side dish to make with the Beef Wellington because it cooks at the same temp and time as our Beef Wellingtons. So we're going to take each bundle, take a slice of bacon because there's not enough ham in this recipe as it is, and we're just going to wrap this right in the middle. I'm not seasoning this with salt or pepper because the bacon is salty, but I am going to drizzle it with some olive oil before I put it in the oven when we put in our Beef Wellingtons. So continue to wrap our little bundles. Set this aside and wash your hands for the next step. So I have some store-bought puff pastry here. I should have unrolled it before I tried to defrost it a little bit and bring it to room temperature. But cut off a piece that is the size that will fit your filet. Take your little bundle out of the freezer, unwrap it from the plastic, and we're going to roll this again like a little burrito, covering the entire surface area with our puff pastry. And then we're going to place the seam side down on a parchment-lined baking sheet. Once both your Wellingtons are wrapped, we're going to score the tops of these. Just let any steam escape. We're going to bake these in the oven for 15 minutes at 400 after we apply a nice egg wash to the tops, bottom, and all the surface area, anything that you can see. Put a nice egg wash over it. This was just 1 egg beaten. So we're going to cook this at 400 along with our asparagus for 15 minutes. And then after 15 minutes, we're going to up our temperature to 450, rotate the tray and cook it for another 15 minutes or until the internal temperature reaches 145 for a medium. And let it rest for 5 minutes once it's completely cooked. And you get this perfectly medium Beef Wellington. That cross section is beautiful. But there it is, my little Christmas dinner Beef Wellingtons with asparagus. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, click the like button. If you loved it, subscribe and hit the notification bell because I put out new videos every week. Until next time, Happy New Year.